I'm Melissa, stepping in for Trudy today. The way this class goes for those of you that are new is that we meditate for the first half hour or so, maybe 35 minutes. And then we'll have a Dharma discussion and then questions. Who is facilitating? Bernard, do you do the breakout groups? Oh, Anissa, you're here.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, Melissa. What a treat to have you.
Nice to be here with you. Are you going to do the breakout groups today?
Oh, yes, I will do that.
Okay, so anybody that wants to stay and get into smaller community groups, connect with some good Dharma friends, then Anissa will be doing that at the end. All right, so let's meditate. Set up a posture that's appropriate for you. Seated is the nice middle way posture where we have to be a little alert to hold our body up. We won't fall over, right? And then we can generally relax in this posture. We'll practice mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness is bringing our attention into the present moment, habituating the mind to line up and be in harmony with reality, which is life when it's happening, which is always and only now. As we settle into our practice, allow yourself to release the duties of your life, the pressures that are on you, your to-do list, the concerns that you have for your family. We're not letting our family go into it. We're letting go of our worries. Let them be for now. Relax deeply in the pit of your stomach. Relax around your shoulders, your face, your eyes. Soften. This awareness is healing for the body, healing for the negativity of the mind, the nervousness, the anxiety, the self-doubt, the limitations, the judgments. But do not oppress anything, any part of your experience, mental or physical. Let the body do what it's doing. Let the mind do what it's doing. Think and create mental images and stories. Let it fear, let it be angry, let it crave. And as you sit here relaxed, just watch what comes, observing these various experiences of the human heart, various experiences of the body, tensions and tingles and pain and pleasure. Joy and excitement and delight and sorrow and anxiety and worry. All welcome. And then from that expansive place, give your mind a smaller task and a resting, restorative place. The breath. Noticing where you feel the touch of your breath. And then observing here, noting in the mind. Inhale as you breathe in. Exhale as you breathe out. And when the mind wanders, which it will relentlessly, very gently come back. Very patiently. Inhale and exhale. Not too tight, not too loose, relaxed and aware. And when you see the mind wandering, label the mind thinking. And then come back to the breath. Whenever you're meditating and you feel off in some way, uncomfortable, not peaceful, then acknowledge, welcome the feeling. We will feel that way in our practice and in our life with regularity. But with practice, we turn towards those feelings, noticing, naming the feeling, and then observe where you feel it in your body. Try to come out of the story. Let it be. Let it come, let it go, and then come back to the breath. And breath from the beginning to the middle and the end of the inhale and exhale. Observing sounds when they arise. Now the sound of a airplane, but not thinking airplane, rather observing the tone, the experience at the ear tour. Rather in the concept of airplane. Same with when observing sensations in your body, not leg, but the tingling or the heat or the softness or the hardness, the direct experience. So the breath is our home base for the attention, but when other experiences arise, drop the breath. For a mindfulness practice, what we're aware of doesn't matter. What matters is awareness itself. Aware of sounds, aware of sensations, aware of emotions. Aware of the breath. And when we inevitably have those feelings of wanting the meditation to be over and wanting to give up, we want to turn towards that experience. Name specifically the emotion that you're feeling in that moment. It can be craving, it can be boredom, it can be frustration. We want to meditate to the point that these reactionary tendencies come to our minds. They are habituated, and then we can sit with them and weaken their hold over our hearts. So turning right towards that, I want to get out of here feeling. What am I feeling? Name it again. Allow it. Let yourself feel the feeling. Notice the sensations in your body. Let it come, let it go. And it will go. And then come back to the breath. I'm reading your message here, Bernard. It says you're regretting the missing the breakup groups.
Well, yes, and I'm staying for the Dharma talk, but I got to clean up. It's a big job.
Breakout groups, not breakup groups. We don't.
Oh, the break, I see.
I don't know what the
Well,
break.
they do break me up at times.
Well, we could start a breakup group if you want.
In laughter is.
Yeah, good. All right. Again, welcome everybody. I'm Melissa stepping in for Trudy today. I believe she'll be back next week. She didn't tell me. Um, so I have a teacher who's a monk. He's 94 years old. He has a retreat center or a meditation monastery in Riverside, California. His name is Sayadaw Ukipapano. And he has been a monk since he was 15 years old. He's from Vietnam. And there's a lot of people that are monks. They don't practice. In Burma, only 1% of people who meditate practice. I mean, when people who are monks practice meditation in Burma, only 1%. So it's not everybody that's a monk that practices. And there's a lot of monks that have done a lot of practice but don't continue. But my teacher, he really practiced his whole life and he never stopped. And I think he still does. He's 94, still practicing, still aware. The way he moves about is always with composure. Always, like never, ever, ever loses himself. And it's very inspiring to observe. And he doesn't do it because he should. His attention is always inwards or out of duty, but out of the wisdom that our minds are creating our life at all moments. And we look to the outside world and try to control things that we cannot, other people and circumstances and situations. But what we can always control is how we're responding to. And so being aware of situations that come up in our life. The Buddha used an analogy regularly about being in tune or in harmony with life, and as an analogy of our practice to live in harmony. And so mindfulness practice is helping us to train in doing that. So we're really paying attention what is here now and responding rather than being proliferated by the thinking mind. I was playing pickleball the other day, and which I recommend to everybody. It's very fun. I had drunk 2 cups of coffee, and when I was playing on this particular day, I was like hitting the ball before it got to me. So I was kind of in a spastic mode, because of the coffee, and so I was like way ahead of myself on all of the points, and so I had to kind of relax back a little bit and say, okay, let it come to you. Let it come to you. And there's a metaphor there for our meditation practice and for life and for mindfulness, that we kind of push into life rather than settling back and listening and let it come to us. And this listening helps everything. It helps us play sports better. That they call in sports getting in the zone, when the mind is quiet and you're fully present and aware. You can see it when you play pickleball. You don't need thinking. The pickleball is a game that can go really fast. And there's a knowing that happens, a knowing without thought, a knowing that is presence, that responds appropriately to whatever is happening in the situation. Same if you're a musician and you're singing, you can sing on top of the tone or the melody and it doesn't sound good. There's no harmony there. there's no listening. So to sing well, you listen and then meet the harmony of the music. Same with playing music. There's a listening that's happening, right? And that's always that present moment attention that we are working towards in our mindfulness practice. So the Buddha gave a really great analogy to this in a little sutta where he talked about, or he didn't talk about, but it is said that a deva, and for those of you that don't know much about Buddhist cosmology, there is a cosmology of realms, infinite realms of other beings. And human beings are actually pretty low on the totem pole of refinement for those other beings, but there's a lot of beings that are talked about that are like angels in other traditions, and various kinds of beings. Maybe the aliens are these beings, I don't know. Could be. But imagine realms of beings where the bodies aren't as heavy as ours, so they don't need to work, and there's more delight and more joy, and the beings are more kind to each other there. You don't have to believe in it, but I like imagining that that is a thing. It kind of opens the heart and mind beyond the misery of human suffering and war and low things like that. But a deva came and visited the Buddha and asked him a question. In the far extreme of the night, she came, her extreme radiance lighting up the entire grove where the Buddha was sitting, and said, "Tell me how you crossed over the flood." And crossing over the flood was an analogy for attaining enlightenment. How did you get over this sorrow, this stress, all of the afflictions and your worries and your fears? How did you cross over? And he said, I crossed over the flood without pushing forward and without staying in place. And then she asked, but how did you cross over the flood without pushing forward and without staying in place? And he said, when I pushed forward, I was whirled about. When I stayed in place, I sank. And so I crossed over the flood without pushing forward and without staying in place. It's such a beautiful analogy for our mindfulness practice, but then also for our life. When are we pushing? And what is it that makes us push forward? It's usually an afflictive mind state, one of our negative emotions, worries, unworthiness, fears, doubts. This isn't going to work out for me. I have to make something. I have to do more. I have to do more. Restlessness, boredom, worry, all of these afflictive mind states. When the unafflictive mind states are there, gratitude, trust, confidence, faith, generosity, love and compassion and kindness, those qualities really help us to live in tune with life. And so I have come to believe, because of what I've seen from my meditation practice, and in spite of the terrible suffering that we see in the world, that the world is, or the universes are run by a basic goodness. And that when we align with that, we live in harmony and in tune with that goodness. Loving kindness practice is really great. If we think about, there is something in the world that wants us to align with not harming others, with helping others, with love, with kindness, with community, with harmony. And if we do that, then we are uplifted and supported, which I have noticed. I didn't feel supported and uplifted in my life when I was in my younger years, thinking mostly about myself and with more superficial values. And then when I started these deeper values, connecting, deeper sense of connection to a greater sense of purpose, not harming other beings and trying to be in service of other beings, then I felt the world show up for me in ways. So they say, protect the Dharma and the Dharma will protect you. So when we practice something like loving kindness, it's like letting go of the smaller self ego and aligning with that bigger something. Some people call that God, this basic goodness of the universe. May I and you and all beings be safe, healthy, happy, and peaceful. And then all of the tightness in our body relaxes. We are in harmony and we live our life better. So there are benefits of our practice that come on that spiritual level. In terms of morality in Buddhist practice, it doesn't come from a place of there's an authority and we got to follow the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, then you're bad. It comes from an understanding of the laws of the universe of cause and effect. What are the causes that we are putting in? They're going to have an effect. And so we can become ever mindful of the cause. Each moment we're putting in a cause. And our thoughts alone are causal. And they can be destructive thoughts or they can be constructive, helpful, onward leading thoughts. And the thoughts that arise in our mind don't come from us, from ourselves. We identify with them that way, don't we? Everybody that shares their mind with me, and I'm so lucky that people do share their minds with me, they do tell me about their particular mind and how it wanders and how their mind worries and how their mind judges other people. Their mind rehearses an argument and sees themselves winning it against somebody on the internet or whatever. That is the mind, that is the human mind. And we're studying this humanness and seeing, okay, well, what is really working for me here and what is not? And there's a whole lot in every single person that you know and their minds that is not working for them. It keeps them trapped and bound. And the cure for that is just this beautiful, pure seeing, awareness, observation. It's not our normal way to really see, a deep seeing. We are led by our mind, but with practice, we can make the conditioning of the mind aware, and then the mind won't lead us so much because we can see this leads to trouble for me and I want to stay away from it. I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. We can have difficult emotions still, but we process them much more quickly. We process them, we heal them. And so when we sit on our cushion, everything's going to show up. That's what we're here to do for mindfulness practice. Everything's going to show up that is human. Nobody has a special mind that is especially broke. All the human stuff shows up. The most rage I ever felt in my life was on a loving kindness meditation retreat. Particularly because we call up these things. We sit down like people that go and take ayahuasca or something. They call up these old traumas, these memories. We're holding them in our bodies. Something happened to you in your life and you've tried to shove it down. You can't look at it. Some loss, some pain, some great disappointment, some abuse by another person. So we shove those feelings away, but they don't go away. They're there and they stay there. And so what we're doing is cultivating a willingness to really bring it all out. And what I'd like you to have is a lot of faith that this awareness really does heal. Lets those things come out, we can solve them, release them, and then know how to handle these things. And then what comes is a deep acceptance of loss in life, that we are very temporary beings, always graining and dying. That is the truth. Everybody we know and love we are going to separate from. And what makes that a problem is that we cling to it, not that it happens. And just living a life as you get older. I'll be 50 this year. As we get older and older, then the mortality starts to become very real for us. And in that, we see what is really of value. I saw this quote by Aldous Huxley this morning. Am I saying that right? Aldous. Yeah. Somebody let me know if I'm saying that right. You know when you say something and it comes out of your mouth, it doesn't sound right? Aldous Huxley. me find the quote. No, did I close that out? Oh, I can't find the quote. Okay, I remember it though. I can share it with you. The quote says, it's very disappointing that we can live a full life, and when we come to the very end of it, that the one lesson that we would depart to others is to try to act with more kindness. And I loved that, because as we get older and as we grow in wisdom from life and from this practice, we come to connect with what is really essential, what is really meaningful for us. And living with more kindness turns out to be a thing that is of great value, of great essence. And the moment that we leave Aldous, okay, thank you. The moment that we leave this body, that is what is really going to be of value. So we connect now. Community, we have community here. We remind ourselves of these deeper values. They exist in this world. Still, good community exists in this world. And we need reminders, and we need support. We need the practice. There's not a human out there that can do it without support. When Ananda asked the Buddha if friendship was 50% of the practice, he said, no, it is 100% of the practice. Because our friends and our surroundings and our community are going to be the ones that support us. So back to support us, back to what? To the reality that we're creating our lives all the time, and we want to consciously create our lives. And we can consciously create our lives when we bring our attention inwards. Same in pickleball. Same in pickleball. You know, there was a Thai monk who said, if you want to pay attention to others, do so maybe 10% of the time. The rest of the time, pay attention to yourself. So we bring our attention back to ourselves. How am I acting? How am I responding? How am I showing up to the situation? With awareness, with compassion, with love. We can call on those qualities in ourselves, and we will be supported. And then release a whole bunch of negative energy. Same with pickleball. In pickleball, you can focus on your opponent. You don't like the way they're playing. They're hitting it too hard, or you don't like the person. The mind can get really involved with the person. But instead, like practice, this is an analogy, you make it just about the ball. Just the ball and what you're doing with it. Just what you're doing with the ball. Just what you're doing with the ball. It's a good analogy for life. So not too tight, not too loose. Settled back, aware, planting the seeds in our life, because we will see it does make a difference. It truly does make a difference. We're not a victim of circumstance. We're creating all of the time. So we want to create with our heart, and we do that by practicing mindfulness. Okay, that's my share for today, and we can open up for questions or discussions, or you can share anything that's going on in your practice or life.